cannot participate the class for this one because I have to go to another conference. Instead, there will be a special instructor. I'll ask another professor to come to this class and then listen your presentation, possibly give you some comment, and he will decide whether your presentation is like good, medium, bad, good, fair, bad. And then he will let me know the grade, and then I'll integrate his assessment on presentation and then my assessment on your term paper plus your class participation so far, and then I will determine your grade. Beg your pardon? Do you have any question, Kevin? Yes, so I mean we have many students, so we will spend 2 days for the student presentation. So half of the students will do the presentation on 10th, and another half will do the 12th. And then another professor will assess, evaluate your presentation. Yes? Uh-huh. Oh, really? Okay. Okay, then what I can do? Still, I have to check your manuscript with Korean software. Still, I have to do it. And then, I mean, thing is that if you work on your paper ethically, there is no chance that plagiarism will occur. So as you work on your paper ethically, then I'm pretty sure the software will not pick up any issue. So don't worry about it too much. Okay? And then just in case, but still accidentally, it is possible that software captures some plagiaristic content. In that case, I will do my best to say whether it is plagiarism or it just happened accidentally. And then if I cannot judge it correctly, then I can maybe ask you, the software pointed out some plagiarism, and how do you think? Then you can defend. I'll give you the chance to defend yourself. Okay, that will be possible. Okay, thank you. So any other issue about the copy killer thing? No. Okay. Any other question about your student presentation schedule? But I think it would be fair to invite other professors to assess your presentation, because for these several months during the class, I may have predilection or bias about your presentation, possibly. So it would make sense to bring objective other professors to assess your presentation. That would be possibly fair. I know all of you are good students, so it means that I may be positively biased on your presentation. Yeah.
Can we go with the PowerPoint over 5 pages though?
Yes, still you have to use the slide you submitted.
Oh, so the same one?
Yeah.
You cannot change
Of course, no, you can change it. I'm sorry. Well, format is the same, but you can change the content. But the important thing is that if you are gonna use the updated slide, please upload the updated one
on the bulletin board.
on the class discussion board.
Can we go over 5 pages?
It is only 5 pages and you have 10 minutes, so it's up to you. Where in which slide you spend more time than others. So maybe you can use just one slide for entire 10 minutes. It is all up to you. But still you have to use the basic 5-page presentation as your basic material. You have to use that slide for this one, and then you can just spend like 1 page or whatever you want. Okay. Any other question? And then Yeonjung, when students do the presentation, please check time. Use stopwatch and check exactly how much they spend time. Okay. Again, the most important is again time. 10 minutes, 1 second fail. Okay, should be less than 10 minutes. That's very important. That is the yes, that's a norm in the academic presentation. Shorter than 10 minutes will be fine. Shorter than designated time is okay, but over the specified time, that is a bad signal in academic presentation. So that's very important. And then, yeah, you use stopwatch to check time. And then, if there is a Q&A between students, and please write down what question was asked by whom. Okay. Then, in that way, I can check the quality of your comment on the presentation. Again, it matters what kind of comment you make for your peer student presentation. Any other question? Yes. So I am going over your midterm submission, your term paper. They are, I think, good, but still, some of you didn't follow the guideline very correctly. Okay. Again, the guideline and the format is very important. So for your final submission, please do your best to abide by the rules. Let's go to today's topic, and then today's topic is another behavioral economics. So it is like a combination of finance and genetics. So it is a genetics of investment bias. And then in finance, there are a lot of investment bias. It is kind of bias that rational people should not make. But people are not that rational. Some people, there's no perfectly rational person. So people always make biases. But when we make bias, it's not just simply mistake. Bias and mistake are slightly different. Bias is like systematic mistake. It's the predictable mistake. So it's not random. So there is a predictable component. It's a systematic. So this paper relates some genetics and investment bias. I think this paper is very important, and it basically covers many important, and it summarizes many important issues in behavioral finance. Okay? So let's go over the abstract of the paper. For a long list of investment biases, again, systematic, predictable mistake. Of course, you may wonder why people make mistake predictable way, right? If it is predictable, we can always correct the mistake, right? Can you anyone think of any predictable mistake of human? Any systematic bias? Do you have any idea what would be the systematic mistake possibly are? Have you ever made mistake that is predictable by yourself, but still you make mistake? Is there anything like that, Richard? No?
We cannot really predict it before we would do it. I mean, we can assume that there's a chance to mess it up, but if we can certainly predict it, we won't do it that way.
But thing is that people do that a lot of times, very systematically.
But it seems strange to me.
Seems
I
strange?
can see myself not doing this.
Oh, okay. Okay, Kevin. Okay. Any other? How about wake up in the morning? You already decided that I wake up 7 a.m. in the morning, but you always like, and you set the alarm that way, but still you wake up like 7:30 or 8 o'clock. Right? It doesn't happen to you. Right? And then maybe you know you have a high chance of making that mistake, and then you set the alarm, you prepare for the situation, but still you wake up 30 minutes later and run to the class, something like that. You know, you don't do that. I mean, even it also happened to me a lot, like grading, for example, grading. Students sometimes complain that, I mean, we have to finish all the Hanyang University professors should finish grading by like 20, June 20, something like that. And the students always complain that why professors don't announce grade like 2 or 3 days earlier, and why professors always announce their grade at midnight of 20, something like that. A lot of students complain. And then usually my defense for the situation is that I ask a question to students again that, well, I always give you the due date for your term paper long time ago, but most of the students submit their term paper just 1 minute before the due date. Right? And you do that, and why do you complain to me? And professors and students make same always mistake, and they are same human, and their tendency of doing that kind of, it is called the planning fallacy. You are always subject to planning fallacy, so please don't complain. That is my defense. Okay. Anyway, students always submit their home paper just before the due date at the last moment, you know, slightly over even due date, and likewise, professors also submit their grade just before due date at the last moment. That always happens. So I think it is one kind of bias. Okay? I always make plans. Okay, this semester, I'm trying to do the grading, final grading 2 days earlier. But the thing is that I started grading actually 2 days earlier, not finishing it 2 days earlier. So it always happens. So there is a lot of that kind of predictable mistake, and actually there are very long list of that kind of mistake or systematic bias. And even in finance, there is a long list of that bias. People make mistake in investment predictable way, including lack of diversification. We know in finance, for one thing in finance that allow us to make money is diversification. There are a lot of stories about theories about how to make money. None of them we sure, but there is at least one thing in finance we sure how to make money, that is diversification. But still, people don't do the diversification that much. So lack of diversification and excessive trading. Trading is costly, so excessive trading is not good. But still, people do excessive trading. And why is that? There are some people are addicted to trading. They know they shouldn't do trade that much, but still they do it anyway. And why is that? So they are all biased. And the disposition effect, I explained to you about disposition effect. People, when they make money for gain, they hold the stock for a long time. No. When they make money on stock, they tend to sell it, or their holding period is short. But when there is capital loss in stock, the holding period tends to be very long. People don't want to realize their loss that well. Okay? So in this position effect, people should decide whether to sell or buy stock depending on their valuation of the stock, whether the stock is overvalued or undervalued. But still, so that is a rational decision. But people decide buying or selling based on past performance. This position effect. We find that genetic differences explain up to 45% of the remaining variation across individual investor after controlling for observable individual characteristics. So this is very surprising result, right? Some people make more money. Some people are more addicted to trading than others. Some people tend to do more diversification than others. So there are differences between people over these investment biases. And the thing is that how people are different about the biases, genetics, your DNA, your genes explain. This paper, at least this paper argues, gene explain 45% of people differences in making that kind of mistake. I think that's surprising. And that is a bit, how can I say, that as a fundamental question is whether we have to learn finance or not, because if everything is 45 is determined by genetics, what is the point of learning finance hard? But the thing is that still we have 55% of the percent that other factors determine the investment biases. So it means that maybe the effectiveness of the learning finance would be like 55%. Of course, it can be either high or low depending on your judgment. So I mean, it asks some fundamental question about how to study finance, how much to study finance. Okay. The evidence is consistent with a view that investment biases are okay. A fundamental question is another fundamental. Why people make that kind of mistake? Are people idiots? Stupid? Fundamentally stupid? That is a question. And then one view on the idea is that maybe that is irrational from the perspective right now, but from the perspective of evolution, from evolutionary perspective, maybe making that kind of mistake, having that kind of biases would be rational from the perspective of evolutionary perspective. The evidence is consistent with the view that investment biases are manifestation of innate, evolutionary, ancient feature of the human behavior. So this kind of mistake we make because it is in our gene, and it is selected in the natural selection process throughout the human period. And maybe we are selected, human beings who make that kind of mistake are selected over very rational human beings, possibly, who don't do that kind of, doesn't make that kind of mistake. They are all dead, all die out. And people who make that kind of mistake are selected naturally and have genes and deliver genes to the next generation. We find that work experience with the finance reduces. So that is good news. Work experience and finance education reduces some genetic predisposition to investment biases. Finally, we find that even genetically identical investors who grew up in the same family environment often differ substantially in their investment behavior due to individual specific experience or events. So anyway, gene is important, but another thing is still experience, learning, event, or life experience there also matter. So there's a key message of this paper. Okay, now let's think about it. Suppose you have a hypothesis. Suppose your research question is whether genetic factors influence investment biases. Suppose that is your research question, and suppose you want to investigate a topic and write this kind of paper. Then how will you proceed? What would be possible your empirical research strategy? The ideal situation is that I can collect a cell of, I don't know, one ideal research design is I collect the DNA of each of you or DNA, I collected DNA of the like 1,000 people, and then again I ask a couple of questions, and I do the experiment for the 1,000 people about investment decision, and then I match their DNA information and their information, their investment decision, and then I can identify how genetic factors affect investment decision, right? That would be ideal experimental setting, isn't it? Collect the DNA of each people and then observe the investment behavior. That would be ideal setting. But problem is that that would be too expensive and too time consuming. People may not, collecting DNA for each person would be possibly too expensive. And second, people may not agree, may not want to reveal their DNA information to experimenter, right? So that would be the challenge. So that would be the great challenge. So that method, although ideal, would be infeasible. Then what would be the more cheaper economic way of doing this kind of analysis? Do you have any idea? Compare parents and children. This is your idea. Okay. So compare. That would be one interesting idea. That would be actually a good idea. And so how you get to this? Compare like a father and son, and then check whether they are similar or not. That would be the one idea, but problem is that if people are in the same family, then they are likely to be exposed to the same environmental factors, same education, same similar thing. How we can control? So suppose we find that investment decision is similar between father and son. Then how do we sure they are from genetic factors instead of from common family environment? That would be the challenge, right?
I think this idea can be really easy because adopted children or the real parents can be an option, but I think that the number of the sample is really
Any other comment? Okay, that would be interesting idea. Any other comment or idea about that? In this paper, they use twins. Okay, why it would help to examine our research question to use twin data? How would it helpful?
It's a little biased because twins are not identical, even though twins are very different.
Even twins can be very different. Do you have any twin sister or brother? Any of you? No. Actually, so there are two types of twin, right? There are
Identical twins and the other ones.
how we call the other twin. Anyway, for identical twins, they have exactly same genes.
They do, but they have different behaviors because I know two identical twins and they're very, very different people.
Yeah,
Even though
right.
they look the same and I can tell the difference.
but they can also like have the same interest. It really depends sometimes.
Yeah, it depends on them. So this is how does it help to use the twin data? Actually, they can help actually to answer this research question. Even twins can be different. Some identical twins can be more different than others, possibly. And then how does it help to answer this question? Let's think about this way. Okay. So there are 2 in 1, 2 in 2, and there are friends. Okay? And then we can compare these two. And then we can compare these two. And then possibly you can compare these two as well, right? And then by comparing each other, okay, and then how we can separate out the effect of gene. Maybe they are similar or different depending on factors, and then they are different. So what we can do is we can figure out they are different, and maybe we can find that they are different, but we can also find that they are maybe more different. And then maybe you can measure the degree of difference between this one and this one. So they are different, and we can measure difference in difference. Right? So difference in difference. How difference is different between the samples? And then there is another twin. Like there are, I don't know, I forgot how I call it, but identical twin, but non-identical twin. Identical twin, they have perfect DNA match. Non-identical twin, let's say they have 50%. And then let's say there are non-identical twin. Non-identical twin 1 and non-identical twin 2. And then we can compare their behavior. And then again, we can check the difference in difference. And then we can also measure how the difference in difference is different between this and this. So it is like a difference in difference and difference. I mean, it is complicated, but that would be a possible idea, right? No, anyway, let's proceed how this is very smart strategy, and this is a very well-known research method. Okay? Measuring difference, measure difference between the data, and measure difference in difference. This is a very effective, common empirical strategy in all social science, actually even in natural science, measuring difference. Let's look at it more carefully while we are reading the paper. Okay. The list of investment biases that individual investors exhibit is very long. I think it is a good summary. Okay, good summary of these investment biases people systematically make in finance. Because you are now learning this one, so please don't make this investment bias yourself. Okay, be careful when you are doing stock investing or bond investing. Be aware of these investment biases. Many investors like diversification have a preference for familiar investment. Trade too much, reluctant to realize the loss, this position effect. Extrapolate risk superior return. Instead of looking at entire history or entire fundamental information, other important factors, people sometimes just look at what was the stock return yesterday. And have a preference for skewness and lottery-like investment. People buy lotteries or lottery-like stock, although they are unattractive. Actually, lotteries are all unattractive investments, right? They have risk, and your expected return is usually negative. These behaviors have been partially attributed to various psychological mechanisms. Ambiguity aversion, so what is the source of investment bias? And psychologists argue that they have psychological factors for example, ambiguity aversion, familiarity for lack of ambiguity aversion, for familiarity for lack of diversity. Oh, people hate ambiguity, therefore they don't do the diversification for unknown stuff. Possible explanation. And overconfidence and sensational seeking, because people are overconfident and seek sensation, therefore they do trade too much. Loss aversion and mental accounting for the disposition effect. And representativeness and hot-hand fallacy for excessive extrapolation of factors. Do you know hot-hand fallacy, right? Hot-hand fallacy. Like, if you throw the coin, like something like this. Even I make sometimes of this wrong judgment. Whenever I watch national soccer match for Korean team always lose. Therefore, I don't want to watch the game. Something like that. So it is like a cold and fallacy. And some people may tell, whenever I go to the soccer stadium, our football team always wins. Therefore, I go. So that is also hot hand fallacy sometimes. And then this kind of hot hand fallacy or representativeness, people just focus on salient features in variables, in decision maker. This is called representativeness. For excessive exploration of past result, the most recent are most salient. So people regard it to represent the innate characteristic. So they decide based on only yesterday's target. And hot hand fallacy, oh, it was good yesterday, so I think it will also good today. Hot hand fallacy. So psychological factors for excessive trading. And the cumulative prospect theory for skewness preference. Cumulative prospect theory is very important, but unfortunately I don't have enough time, so I'll skip it. But if you are interested in cumulative prospect theory, actually which is very important, please check Google. I mean, if I explain very briefly, suppose you have a kid. Let's assume you have a kid, your adorable son or daughter. Suppose you have a kid, and then suppose you want to buy a seat belt for your car. Seat belt, no. Child seat, right? Safety seat for children. You want to buy a safety seat for your kid. And then let's assume that there are two kinds of products. That the first product, which is cheap, and then it has 0.01%. 0.01%, very small, right? 0.01% malfunctioning. And another product has a 0 chance of malfunctioning. Okay? And people, okay, let's say perfectly safe, let's assume the perfectly safe seat, 0% malfunction, it costs like $100. And what would be your appropriate valuation for another seat that has a chance of 0%, 0.01% malfunction? How much will you willing to pay for that seat? The first one is $100, and the second one is how much? Any idea?
How much I would pay for the second one?
Yeah.
115.
Well, you pay more?
Yeah.
My assumption is perfectly safe seat is $100.
Oh, perfectly. So the other way around.
Yeah, and slightly risky. How much will you pay? Will you ever buy it, or how much discount will you accept?
It's not a big difference. I guess $90.
$90. Okay, you're very rational. How about Kevin? Wow, you guys are. So you guys are very, very rational. I mean, so 0.01 chance percentage means that when there is accident, when there is a 10,000 accident, one student die, one children die, something like that. So I mean, in survey, people regard that as a very high risk, and they don't want to buy. They are willing to spend a lot of more money for even the small chance of improvement. So the jump from 0 to 0.1% is huge for most of the consumers. Actually, it's more of a marketing topic, but huge. But change of the risk from 0.01% to the 0.02%, something like that, is marginal. People don't care that much. So change from 0 to not 0 make a qualitative difference. It change, it affects people's willingness to pay for the product a lot. Okay. So we have a skewness bias for extreme event. Actually, there is another way, like suppose you have a disease. No, it is too, I mean, gloomier. Okay. Suppose, okay, let's assume that you have a disease. And then without any treatment, you will die. 100% die. And then there is a pill, there is a drug. And if you take that drug, then there is 1% chance that you will survive. Okay, then how much will you willing to pay for the drug? I mean, it is too gloomy. Maybe it is too gloomy. Yeah. And yeah, so people will pay a lot for that 1% chance. But thing is that, well, there is 1% chance of living, and there is another drug that gives you like 2% of chance. And then people are now less sensitive about that probability change in their willingness to pay. So again, there is a qualitative jump in the willingness to pay from 100% die to the 90%, and then 90%, and 98%, something like that. Again, we have skewness, preference for some skewness. We have special evaluation for skewness, extreme event. And that kind of thing is always, that kind of thing is modeled mathematically or with utility function by Kahneman and Tversky, and which is called cumulative prospect theory. Actually, this is very important in marketing. I think this is more important in marketing than finance. As a consumer theory, consumer behavior. So, do you think you can get the basic idea of the cumulative prospect theory? Okay. So anyway, traditionally people use psychology. People use psychology to explain people's biases, systematic mistake. While reference to studies have shown that individual investors on average exhibit this investment bias, little research has been devoted to uncovering the origin of this investment bias and the different algorithms. Okay, we know there are psychological factor, but there's more fundamental. What is the origin of the psychological factor? Why people have that kind of psychological factor from the beginning? Okay, so there is a more fundamental question. Are investors genetically endowed with certain predispositions that manifest themselves on investment biases, or do investors exhibit bias as a result of parenting or individual specific experience or events? People are all different psychologically, right? There are some psychological factors in every human being, but why those psychological factors? It is nature or nurture, right? Nature versus nurture. It is fundamental, one of the very fundamental debate in social science and natural science as well. Nature versus nurture. Why do we have that kind of psychological factor? Yeah? is that yes, people have special predisposition about the very small probabilities. Okay, extreme small probability. That's cumulative prospect theory, a version of cumulative prospect theory. I think related research. Let's start from related research. Related research next class. I think this would be enough for today. And then, do you have any question about today's topic? No. Anyway, at home, please try to think of how, if you are a researcher of this research, please think about how will you use the twins data to do this kind of research. Okay. Please. Yeah.
I would be related to the last science material, and I think we didn't tell about the criteria. How we can tell if this is a children's account with a good guardian? What is the criteria how we can tell if this is a children's account?
I cannot understand your question.
I mean, like there are many children's accounts, and somebody we can say this is a children's account with a good guardian, and how we can recognize it.
I beg your pardon?
It seems to me that we didn't finish the last article
Yeah.
about the child's account.
Yeah, we didn't finish it, but we discussed all the important results already. Yes, but yeah, about children account thing, I know we didn't finish it yet, but I think I told you almost all important results of the paper anyway. So for the other part of the paper, you can quickly go through it. And then about the research, to compare the research method of that paper and this one, well, there is a slight differences. So anyway, we can discuss the research method of this paper next class. Okay, thank you.